After weeks of competition, one of the strongest regions in the world comes to head here live from Leicester's Haymarket. Over 600 teams signed up to compete for the opportunity to play here, and from there get the chance to play in Berlin, where the final circle falls for the PGI 2018. A warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as we get down to the nitty-gritty and the business of things for the pre-show to begin our Europe qualifier. My name's Kyle Aris. I'm going to be your host throughout the next 3 days, and to my left-hand side, joining me as always, it's the dynamic trio itself. We have Toffees and we have Avenger. Boys, couldn't be more excited to be here.
I'm excited. I think the players are excited. We saw that we're going to see the stage soon for the first time. It is a wonder of engineering, and just one of those things where you walk into the theater and you sort of immediately get the gravitas of how big a tournament this is. It's
a huge tournament. It's a huge stage as well, and I think that's going to bring out some land jitters, and I'm kind of worried for some of the teams because this is 12 teams' first LAN appearance in PUBG, and I think we're going to see a lot of land jitters. I talked with some of them. They're very nervous.
Yeah, you've got a whole wealth of teams that are here, obviously with some that have got a lot of experience and some with not so much. Let's take a look at our 20 teams that are going to be playing throughout the next 3 days, of course, with, as we mentioned, some big heavy hitters and some that we haven't seen too much of. But throughout the qualification process, we got to kind of witness how most of all of these teams, in fact, were able to make it to this grand stage here in Leicester. So, guys, what do you think? Who are the names that really stand out for you coming into this tournament?
I mean, it would be silly not to mention a team like FaZe as a favorite to go through. I've even been quoted saying that the road to global dominance in PUBG comes through Leicester. Yep. A large part of that is FaZe Clan, a team that really is almost impossible to beat when they're on their game. But other teams like Grow Up Esports is a smaller club that we caught our eye, I think, in the second round of qualifiers and has just been playing really, really well. So I think that's sort of the story of this. We have these polars, right? These phenomenal teams we're familiar with, but I think we're going to get surprised by some of these smaller brands.
I think we're going to see some of these dark horses really show up. I think Moonwolf, they came out of the weaker group, yes, but they absolutely slated. Edokos tying for that 26 most kills in the qualifier. I think we're going to see some great stuff for these guys.
Yeah, it's cool. And we have some teams that we really want to kind of focus on and deep dive in a little bit here before we actually get into the proceedings of the entirety of the tournament. One of the teams that I really want to focus on, gentlemen, is Alliance, a team that throughout some of the earlier rounds here in the qualifier didn't have the easiest of times, barely kind of scraped by almost to get into round 3. But in round 3, they certainly showed up.
They showed up big time. I mean, this is a team, and we say they scraped by, but part of that is because T-Bone had just been added to the team. Alliance was sort of filling itself out. They had made a big change to the roster, and they were sort of learning their style. Literally, if you asked them what's your play style, they would have said, it's a work in progress. Like, we have no real definition there. And the question is, over the last month, has it gone from a work in progress to a work of art? And I hope that it has, because these are the hometown heroes. These guys, really, I'm excited to see them play.
Yeah, and they had a boot camp for 9 days, I believe, in Stockholm. I had the pleasure to meet them up there. T-Bone and Reels being the newest additions, Reels being the new in-game leader, and having a team just after a month, you have to in-game lead. They just have to accept, and I think they have very good chemistry to be able to just accept the leading role of Reels, and I think that's going to be very beautiful. And I'm excited to see, because they've been changing their drops a lot. Yeah. They've been changing how they play, their play style, and I'm really excited to see if these guys can show up.
Interesting to think that a roster almost entirely of Brits then had to go to Stockholm and then come back here from that boot camp. But I think overall it's nice to see some Brits actually doing well, because usually in video games we're kind of rubbish, and that's why we do this job, which is talking about the video games. But they're certainly a team that could upset here.
Yeah, I mean, T-Bone even came out and said we want to prove that a team of Brits not only works but can show up to play. I mean, like, when they're thinking that way, it means they want to represent well. But I think, I mean, VZ summed it up best. He said our main focus is fights. We have undeniable firepower, so they're confident. The question that I have for Alliance is, in this 20-team meta, it's a quick question for a lot of the teams, is how do they handle the early game? They fight well. They've got great fraggers and some good team dynamics. The question is, can you get to that point?
Let's focus on one of the big heavy hitters for this tournament, arguably the best team in the world. It is FaZe Clan, and these guys have just kind of gone from strength to strength to strength. It feels like throughout the duration of PUBG right now, they almost never fall off, where some of the bigger names have had kind of their rises, their falls a little bit. FaZe has been the consistent, and they are looking to basically win the whole thing.
FaZe is the sun, and the rest of us just revolve around them. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are completely unstoppable. They've got one of the best players, in my opinion, in the world in the form of Jempty, and they just work so well as a squad. They theoretically have defined roles, but they don't necessarily need to do them. Sometimes Jempty plays support, sometimes he's lead fragger. It's just really cool to watch them sort of play and define meta over and over and over again.
And that's just said here, define meta. I think that's the thing with FaZe. They are innovating strats. They are changing constantly. They're shifting how they want to play. We've seen it multiple times. They do not let play games with them. They play with others. They position themselves around others to completely annihilate them.
Yep. And don't let that fool you. Mexi has not changed his name to Nick 3 as that continues on. Let's shift over to another team that we want to kind of look at. A team that has recently kind of stepped away from their sponsor. Welcome to South Georgia, Paul. Obviously, we've seen them a little bit in online tournaments doing pretty well for themselves. But again, it feels to me like they're a team that is coming in here with something to prove a little bit. They're in a great spot to say, this is our tournament to show everyone else what we're worth.
Absolutely. I mean, this is welcome to South George, right? For those of you who might be a little confused when you see them on the map, they are previously called Kingwin.
Yes.
They have separated, as you said, from their sponsors recently, and that's made them an independent team. And the question that I have is, will that add pressure or release pressure? There's nobody left to sort of keep happy, but on the other hand, you know, if you're advancing to Berlin, you want to get some new attention from some new sponsors, perhaps. Does that increase the pressure of play? I mean, you've been in this situation before. Does that make it harder or easier?
Honestly, I think it's going to be... They're going to have more pressure on them because they're living off this right now. They're living off the money they won from previous tournaments. They're living on from their old salary. So they have a few months to prove themselves. And this is the ultimate challenge. If they're able to go to Berlin, imagine what offers will be thrown at them. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to have a big organization? Who wouldn't have to have a top tier team? Because they are, for me, they are a top 5 team in the EU right now.
Now they scare me a little bit, and we kind of talked about that a little bit in sort of the description. Is the idea that sometimes they're amazing. Sometimes when they come and they're sort of feeling their vibe, when they've got a good circle, they're unstoppable. The way that they sort of do this 2-2 split in fights, it's kind of a joke that once you see, I'm having a hard time adjusting to the new name, but once you see one of the new WTSG guys,
nice.
You're in trouble because that means there's 3 more flanking. Like that's just the way that they execute. The problem is sometimes when they feel off their game, it just feels like they can't quite catch on to the rhythm of the tournament, and they just have a really bad performance.
They struggle a lot with the southeastern circles. They struggle a lot with military circles. Everything else is okay for them, but transitioning out of South George with people around you is very hard. We have 20 teams now. There will be people around them. There will be people in crates. Potentially could be people in the southwest of George, and maybe around the Gaka as well.
Well, I mean, they're advertising it now. You can buy some retail in South George, maybe.
We have lovely beaches and a nice bridge. But I do think the fact that this is a European tournament is good for them. Tempo Storm has been a challenge for them because Tempo loves that Gaka South area and often will cause trouble on rotations. We don't necessarily have a team that uses that same strategy here, so I think that may help them perform well at this tournament.
Well, gentlemen, let's check in with some familiar faces as well here for the tournament, the pre-show. It's D-Man and Matrim. Are you excited for the tournament, guys?
We are, and we can sell you property as well because we have the entirety of the landmass of Erangel available to us, Matt. We're excited. We're trying to figure out exactly where people are going. You just talked about Gaka. I know there are people going Gaka and West Coast. That is all completely occupied because it's 20 teams, Matt. And this is a big deal. We really got to figure out where everyone's going.
Especially in these first couple of rounds, because that kind of sets the pace. This is where the confidence comes into play and you kind of claim your drop location. Naturally, if you end up with a friendly plane path that comes across something like this, you're going to reach your North George area or South George area. You can get those control points, and you really want to come in and kind of claim your territory now and early. So we might see a couple of early skirmishes in the first couple of rounds, which is where all the fun kind of comes in, because, you know, that's where the confidence, the swagger kind of comes in. It's like, no, we're going to play around Milta because Milta is ours.
Yeah, and there's 20 teams that are going to find a home in here, James. It's going to be a very, very interesting first game.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Our resident topographical experts joining us here for the beginning of the show. I do love that map. It's beautiful.
Now, they brought up a good point, though. 20 teams. Things are a little bit different here. And I expect on day one to see teams like Penta, who are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more wild, do well on these first days. Because most of our traditional big-name teams are going to be playing a little more, not I want to say carefully. I'll say well carefully. They're going to be playing quiet, looking for center compounds, going for placement, and sort of securing those early points so that they can do what they need to on the last day. So this is a good day for aggressive teams, edge teams who like to take fights to sort of rack up points and push into the next day.
I mean, throughout the qualifiers, like when it came to round 3, we had 8 maps across the 2 days that we actually played it. 15 games across the 3 days. This gives everyone a really good opportunity to feel it out a little bit to start off and then maybe make those adaptations later on, right, Avenger?
Yes, indeed. I mean, with the 20 teams, also another thing is very hard for them. You're going to have hard planes, but they're looking to go the same area for 15 games. The first 2 games, as Matrim and D-Man said, the first 2 games, we're trying to settle in, and then they're looking to, for the last 13 games, to be in a position where they can go there every time. But we're going to have teams that are going to be in Kameski style, developer, they're not going to be able to drop there every time. So I think it's going to be kind of rough for these guys when they have to go to the kind of edge in the northern and the southern areas.
Well, of course, not only could you have joined us here at the Haymarket Theatre, as we've got a lot of people getting ready to watch all the games here, but you can get your tickets ready for Berlin itself. If you go to pgi.playbattlegrounds.com/tickets, you can join us there live where the final circle falls here and the chance for the $2 million prize pool for all of these teams that are going to be joining us from all over the world. It's going to be phenomenal, and we get to crown 3 teams here from this tournament who are going to be moving there as well, which is all exciting, all encompassing. I want to get your kind of final thoughts before we kind of wrap things up here for the pre-show. Who do you guys think are teams that are going to be able to excel and maybe push themselves towards Berlin?
I think that teams, my picks for who's going to come out of this one is I think obviously FaZe Clan, maybe a team like Kingwin, Alliance, and Knights are going to do well.
Yeah.
But if a team like Penta learns from the qualifiers, comes out aggressive on day one, Ghost, for instance, had 2 bad days in North America, but their first day was 19 kill games because they took advantage of the chaos of the first day. If those teams do that, they could advance and surprise all of us.
I think we're going to see, when we're done here with these games, I think we're going to see 2 big names. Knights, FaZe, Welcome to South Georgia Alliance. I think we're going to see a dark horse.
That's good.
It could be Moonwolf. It could be something like Singularity. It really depends on how it pans out and how they are able to adapt, because that's really the name of the game here in the 20-team meta. It's how good are you able to adapt.
And I think that was proven in our previous round qualifiers, right, as well, with some of these kind of lesser-known names being able to kind of excel in the chaos that you can thrive in if you're a team that's a little bit less known in these situations, right?
Absolutely. I mean, adapt or fail. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
We've seen that. There's teams who are not here. I love you, Vitality, but they're not here because I felt that they adapted too slowly to the 20-team transition, and that is going to be key here. The meta will probably change throughout the course of the next 3 days.
Yeah.
We saw that, again, in North America. They started in a middle meta, and they ended on an edge meta. Will that happen here? I'm curious to see, and the teams that are ready for it were the ones that will thrive.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll check in with you in just a few moments' time as we are almost ready to begin the show here for the PGI EU qualifiers. We're going to be breaking everything down here at the desk. Our casters are going to be bringing some phenomenal commentary and coverage of all the games that go down. We have 15 games to go. Join us after this break when we begin the EU qualifier.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you may be in the world, and welcome to PGI 2018, the European qualifiers here in Leicester at the Haymarket Theatre. Now, it doesn't matter if you're watching at home, online, or here, these beautiful people at the Haymarket. Thank you. You're going to be in for an absolutely sublime show. And there is an absolute treat. Look at this stage behind me. It is beautiful. We began with 600 teams in these qualifiers. 600 teams, that's 2,400 players, all dropping onto the battlegrounds, all surviving, reviving, running away from that blue zone, all to get here to the penultimate circle at Leicester's Haymarket Theatre. 20 teams now remain. That's 80 players that are all going to be competing for one of 3 spots to try and get to Berlin, the global finals next month in July, at the end of July. What a prestige moment that would be for any of these players. And there are some phenomenal teams. European competition is at its finest. We look at teams like Method, like FaZe, like Liquid, and that's just naming a few. That's just 3 teams of 20 that all could win this competition. And they could become one of the best teams in Europe, and maybe even one of the best teams in the world. This is PGI 2018. This is PUBG esports at its finest. Now, as well as all of these players around me, they're some of the best players in Europe. We have some of the best talent throughout Europe and the world as well. Some analysts, some commentators, and it is my pleasure to introduce our desk host, Kylaris. It's over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Dan. Of course, we are ready here at the analysis desk to begin all the festivities, getting things down the line. Indeed, my name is Kylaris. Thank you very much, my friend. And to my left-hand side, always joined by Toffees and Adventure, my left-hand men. I was about to say right-hand men, but you're up to my left, so I'm going to go with that one. Gentlemen, excited for the tournament overall. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-show. We're going to be getting into our first game here soon, but I think it's all really going to kick off very nicely.
Super hyped, really excited to see not only how everybody plays, but who comes forward to represent EU on the national or the world stage, right? Yep. Like everyone's watching, and we want to see the best teams who can also play Miramar and third person advance. So really hoping to see some of those flexible teams get through this thing.
I think that's the most important. We talked about it in the pre-show, adaptability. You're able to adapt the 20-team meta. You're also able to adapt the Miramar games and TPP as well. Yeah. And honestly, as you said, these 3 teams going through here, I think that's going to be one of the ones taking it home in Berlin as well.
Let's take a look at the format overall for the tournament as it stands. So you guys know at home what is at stake as well as where we are playing and what we are playing for. We are live here from the Haymarket Theatre in Leicester, a venue that has been around for a long, long time, and I heard has been kind of renovated over the last 15 years or so. So that's how that goes down. And $100,000 is on the line across all of these teams for the 20 teams. What's important to note is that the 3 teams at the top will qualify for Berlin, which will be absolutely the biggest tournament in PUBG's history, so everyone is excited for that. Let's take a look at the breakdown of the prize pool as well, which is all important. That first place team will be backing themselves $20,000, but again, that prestigious spot of going towards Berlin. Likewise, second and third also going towards Berlin as well. And everybody that is in attendance will be rewarded with some prize pool, even 1,000 down towards the bottom on that 17th and 20th spot. But I was talking to you, Toffees, about this earlier, and the fact that there is that little bit of difference there, even down towards the south of that prize pool, makes all the difference.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, from 11th to 20th, the difference is $1,000. So if you're sitting in a pocket, and really between any of those division groups, the incentive to play aggressively, to look for picks, it's 15 points per kill, Kylaris, which is a huge amount. If you get a team wipe that puts you up 1 placement and 68 points, there's no reason to just sit and wait it out, right? The money differential means it's worth me struggling, trying to get to 10, taking huge risks. Yes. Worst case scenario, I lose $1,000. Best case scenario, I gain 4. So I think that could really, especially in the last day, get some of the teams who are struggling to play really aggressive, set traps, do some hot drops, and make the game a little more interesting on the final day.
This will also be going forward. It will also be, how did you do at EU PGI?
Yes.
How well did your team perform? That's going to be a measurement months and months ahead. So I think it's so important to, even from 20th to 15th, there's a huge difference. Yeah. Both in prize pool, yes, but also in how do you perceive yourself and how did the players do?
What's your resume look like?
Exactly, and I love that we have all of these teams on land to just qualify for the opportunity to be at Berlin. Obviously, all of these teams went through a very rigorous process of qualifying through the qualifying process online to get here in Leicester as well. But one team that also went through that process is Penta, a team that we were looking at and seeing how they're going to be able to fare here throughout these next 15 maps. We're going to be looking at all the teams throughout the next 3 days. So what do you guys make of Penta Esports going into this?
honestly, for me, Penta is a team that's been around for some time. After they've been picked up by Penta, they really want to go to Berlin. They're a full German team. It's a German organization. They have somewhat set drops. They're respected among other teams in EU. They are in a zone that is in a position to drop where nobody else will contest them, I feel like. So I think they're going to be coming out very strong in the first few games.
I mean, they've got their foot in the door. They've made the qualification. The question for me is, and I said this earlier, will they shoulder through it? Because will they be aggressive enough to make it through? We knew they'd be okay. They did well in their groups. They've got 6 months played together, so they've got one of the longer terms in terms of a roster. But they're unique. They're very aggressive in the way that they play and the way that they like to take fights. The question for me is, are they going to play with confidence? Because for me, the weakness that this team has is that they hesitate when they make calls sometimes, and they do that because they're not confident in the win or who they're up against. What I need to see from them, the key to victory, or Toffee's key to victory, if you will, for this team, is not even caring who they're up against. Just knowing with the second that instinct to go aggressive hits, to run with it, because that's what they excel at.
They were one of the teams during the qualifiers as well that got themselves a few chicken dinners. They got themselves a lot of kills under their belt as well. I think what's important to note, though, between those qualifying rounds, which some of the lobbies were a little bit easier, admittedly, than the setting that we have here, is that this is 20 of the best teams from all of those lobbies. So I think some of the teams that kind of skirted through, say, for example, are going to have a lot harder time here when it's really the best of the best competing for only those top 3 spots.
And that's why I think day one is super important for a team like Penta. And I said this in the pre-show, and I'm going to keep harping on it. Day one, some of your top teams are going to play a little more careful. They're going to look for center compounds. They're not going to want to go out at 19th. That's your chance. That's a chance for a team like Penta to get wicked aggressive, try to pick up 19 kills and a chicken dinner in game 1, and set themselves up for maybe an error or two during day 2 or 3.
I think so too. I think we're going to see a lot of center pushes very early. I think we're going to see people leaving after the 3-minute mark, very early, pushing the center compound. And especially if we have some harsh planes, I think it's going to be very important for these teams go center and just, even if they have a SMG with 60 bullets, just roll with that.
Right. Well, actually, that's a big point that I want to bring up here, is the fact that throughout this 20-team meta that we've been watching, what has been your standout in terms of tactic base? Because we have seen people going center, trying to set themselves up, and then maybe there's been shifts that hurt them a little bit. But a lot of teams have also kind of been going for those edge strategies and trying to play it a little bit slower, because there are so many teams that could potentially pinch, just catch you off guard. You can die on rotates. What do you think?
Since the gunplay patch, my personal belief is if you're not rotating by about 2-minute warning, you're too late. If you're if it's sub 2, it's time for you to play the edge, because you're not going to make it to the middle. I mean, we've got teams who are grabbing a couple of submachine guns, going to middle compound, and doing sort of what we saw Valhalla. They're not here, but they had this weird strategy of going to the middle of the circle really fast and just setting a trap, saying someone's going to crash this, and we don't need to have great guns. We just have to be in position.
And to that point about kind of strategy and tactics, Avenger even, sorry, talk to me about the circle settings, because they are a little bit different to what people are used to on live.
Yeah, so on live, we have the first circle is the same. But after that, the next circles, they're bigger and they're slower. They do more damage. So for them being bigger, we were going to see more people. They do not even they need to go in the first circle. They need to go center. They need to go center in the second circle, because this shift from, it's going to be 4,500 meter wide to about 2,700. So it's going to half on that, less than half even. So in the second circle, it's much more important to be center on that. So we're going to see a lot of rotational deaths in the beginning. And I think it's very important to not edge just at the beginning. We need to see more people going center in the second circle, but also in the first.
Almost an attempt to feel things out in the end here. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, as we are almost ready for game number 1. I'm very excited to find out who's going to be able to get the leg up in the first game here of the PGI EU qualifier. So without further ado, let's head over to the commentary team to bring you all the action. Guys, excited for game 1?
Absolutely, very excited. We've seen the Chinese qualifiers, we've seen the CAS, and you were even at the North American qualifiers. We know exactly who is going there from there, but who's going to be joining them? It is a European start. 15 games, and I can tell you straight away, it is a southern plane straight across the quarry over towards Milta Power, and that immediately causes a lot of problems for northern teams.
Specifically, it's so hard to transition over this. You have the plane path going right over this water area. That means that naturally that area is going to be out, but this just becomes a kill zone as everybody's going to try to stretch as far as they can, try to gather some type of vehicle and move into these northern areas. So that means it's just going to be contested. We might see a couple people get run over as they're trying to drop onto the same vehicles. Going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
And this plays into, obviously, a lot of teams have been playing, on all the on-lane leagues, 16 teams, so now back into 20-man territory. We had it throughout the PGI qualifiers, and we saw a lot of teams struggling to adjust to that. And now with these northern areas, think of Georgopol. Georgopol's a drive away. That's a long drive. Think of Rozhok area. Think of anything. Severny maybe. If Alliance is still going to plan on going to Severny, they were a team that adapted very well. You know, if you think in this southern route, you could be talking Novo maybe going down there, start contesting or split territory, because that south is very congested in itself already.
Well, we could have a secondary problem with these teams. Let's say you drop, you do your stretch over, you get a car, and then you make your way all the way up to North George, and then it ends up being a military-based circle.
Yeah.
Now you have no time to loot. You're going to be moving into the mid-game with like near on no resources, and we know that resources denial is a big part of this game. Like, you take those long-range shots to try to knock off helmets, armor, make them burn through their meds. That's what you're trying to accomplish inside the mid-game section of this. So whenever you make a really hard rotation north and the circle pops back down south, it means that you don't have those tools to really survive and get into the late game.
Well, you can see the teams are just getting themselves set up. The timer, you can see counting down on their screens, just about everybody getting their headsets on. 50 seconds to go to game number 1 of 15. And I've just been talking to some of the players this morning, you know, just saying, look, guys, even if you don't do well today, you've got to remember this is a 15-day game tournament. You know, even if the first 5 games doesn't go so well for you, just look at previous tournaments in the past. Think of I don't know, think of Starlighter, where Team Liquid had that amazing first day and then sort of dropped off. Think of TSM. They've had some great first days and just completely collapsed in that last day. Whereas other teams have turned it around, like Ghost Gaming. Think of their previous performance at tournaments where they've just had an amazing last day and like shot up the table. So there's a lot of mental fortitude that's required for these teams to sort of work the way through these 15 matches.
Well, the problem with it, though, is we always have FaZe on Sunday. FaZe just shows up on Sunday, and they just tear through the leaderboard. They just rack up so many points on that last day because I think they're one of the best teams about adapting. They're good about figuring out where everybody's going to go, figuring out how they're going to transition, and finding ways to work inside of that. I think that's the key to their success, is just their in-game knowledge and their adaptability. So the big problem comes into play is it's okay to maybe have a little bit of a rough first day. That puts all of your pressure onto day 2 because you know FaZe is going to show up day 3. With only 3 spots on the table, that means that everything is important inside of this. You have one bad game, and that could shift you down several spots. In the North American event, we saw it was going all the way up until the last game whenever people were dropping off where the placements were going to be.
We should talk about it. It's also PGI Circles, which does play into effect. If you're unaware of exactly what that means, it means by Circle 4, there will be a hard shift away from water. So if it is, say, I don't know, think of those big, 50-50 circles, it will stay that way. But as soon as it gets to Circle 4, it will 100% move away from that water. So when you start seeing rotations around Circle 4, you've got to be thinking, okay, these guys are down here. Whoa, hang on a minute. They need to place themselves further north from where they are. So it really can play into a lot of the thoughts. Obviously, if they've been playing a lot of online leagues or even tournaments, we had similar circles at DreamHack, Austin, if you remember. And think of the teams that did adapt to it. Think of FaZe, their first 3 games. Think of Knights, their first 3 games. All of them had a bad start, but they rocked on, and FaZe and Knights definitely picked up. For me, I think probably for everyone as well, FaZe and the Pittsburgh Knights, probably the favorites coming into this one. Of course, it is only 3 teams out of these 20 they're going to get through. It's hard.
That makes so much pressure, and specifically since we're dealing with the 20-team meta, that's a little bit different than what a lot of these players are used to. Like, if you're one of the guys that plays in leagues all the time, you're going to have to deal with a slight adjustment here because there's going to be people around every single corner, and that means that these guys that fought their way through the qualifiers, this is their bread and butter. This is the only thing that they've ever known. This is what they always scoped all of their strategies off of, and I think that actually gives a chance for a lot of these teams that are unsigned or just kind of playing their way through the qualifiers to really have a chance to make it to Berlin.
Well, here we go. You can see the bird is in the air. The teams are about ready to go. The PGI Global Invitational for Berlin is underway. The European teams take to the skies for the first time on day 1 here. And match number 1, 15 games to be played, 5 each day throughout Friday, Saturday and Sunday. All will be taking part here at the Haymarket Theatre in Leicester.
There they go.
And we are live. The plane, of course, as we mentioned, it is going to be going across Quarry, if I could only speak, and down to the channel. And it is a very, very safe plane. It's going to cause so many problems for everyone looking for those vehicles going north. Think of Method and Pajinki. They're going to have to secure their territory very early because everybody wants to get towards Rozhok, to a school, to Yasnaya. Everybody's going to be looking for their cars.
And that's a big thing. We see so many teams that love going Georgia Pool, Yasnaya. They have to secure something very early. And so therefore, there's a lot of risk in making these drops because everybody's going to be going for a car or trying to stretch as far as possible. So now if you're one of these teams that kind of drops like Pachinki, you can land quickly, maybe get an AR, and take some shots at some of these guys as they're trying to long drop across you, and maybe get a free kill out of it.
I'm already seeing a spread loot. Look at that. You can see El Giganto and Singularity sort of on that south area around the quarry. They're already looking for the vehicles and the compounds. They're kind of looking in the same area. This is the chaos that could reign. I was talking about Alliance. They're a Severny Zaki split team, but they also go Novo, and that's exactly where they're going. Now Atlantis, formerly known as Limitless, also go to Novo, so they're already looking to clash for territory.
It looks like the guys from Alliance have already been scared off. That's the confidence drop that comes into play. You drop down, whoever kind of gets there first, and if you full commit to it, you can kind of scare another team out in a way. You can see Alliance has now had to make their way over into a little bit worse of a looting zone with Atlantis getting full control over this area. That means they can get the loot and potentially push over towards Alliance very quickly. But this is the very first round. Most people tend to play a lot more passive. You don't want to give up those first points. You want to make a statement with your first game. So a lot of the times these guys lean into a little bit more passive of play. And long-range shots, just like we were talking about. Andy Pyro trying to light up in the distance. If he lines up any more of these, he could really do a lot of damage. Losing a player before they can even touch the ground is huge, D-Man.
15 points a kill, remember. And that's Copenhagen Flames you can see in the distance, I believe, that's trying to drop on down. They're all trying to make their way into Rozok and get the hell out of there. And looks like he should be safe. Andy's just tapping a few more. He's only got 6 more bullets to go, so doesn't look like he's going to get the knock there. The Flames, you can see in the distance, will be making it over to Rozok. Long dropping it, but they should be safe. One, you can see they were heading off to Watertown. Everybody's kind of securing their spots now. Even Red Zone, they're already getting towards North Georgia Pole. Welcome to South Georgia Pole. They're in their home territory. Of course, South Georgia. It doesn't look like they're going to get contested in this first game.
Well, we have a pretty comfortable circle inside of this one. So it's pretty much due center in the map, really making up for the evil plane path that we saw just a second ago. So now these guys should be able to migrate into the circle fairly easily. Most of these guys are already in a position to where they can have control over the areas that they want. Really, it's just going to be like the guys over in Novo or the guys over in Milta might have to make a little bit of a transition.
So Method in the safe zone. Looks like Team Blank are going to satisfy for the spread Gatka area. El Giganto and Singularity, they are very much mingling amongst one another. It does mean that Ferry Pier is actually open. It's one of the areas you've got to expect the Stalber and Kameshki to be open currently. It could all change, of course. Here's back to Zaki. Robin, he's in the apartments around school area. They've decided to occupy that territory. And it's very important to talk about these spots. The reason we're mentioning it so much is because everybody's got feelers out in this game. Everybody's trying to figure out where they're all going to be. They may have had a couple of scrims just to figure it out. Everybody knows where FaZe and Knights, etc. are going. But there is a couple of teams in there with a 20-man cluster. It does cause a few problems. Now, Moonwolf, they're in the Milta ground. Looks like they're pretty much happy. These guys all on the south coast have kind of adjusted for themselves. I can see Ithaca Boars are actually on that south coast loot spree. They are bumping pretty close alongside the guys from Penta down there. Here's the Wizards and Liquid. They're splitting east-west on Yasnaya as well. You can see Abitsa's just collecting himself an M4. Looks like Gova's already got himself a Scar as well. So most of these guys, this is fairly standard for Liquid and Wizards. They kind of knew this was happening. I believe they were qualified in the same lobby as well. I may be completely wrong on that, but Liquid are fairly used to it. I talked to Abitsa and he's like, that's fine. We'll take 75% of Yasnaya. They can have the other 25.
Yasnaya is perfectly fine. We usually see a lot of teams drop into Yasnaya. Potentially you could see 2 teams inside of Rajak, but it gets really dangerous when you do that. Georgia Pool can potentially support up to 4, but you got to be really polite with your neighbors if you do it. The big thing about this first round, though, is going to be a lot of information gathering. Like you were talking about. These guys have played a couple of scrims next to each other, but you kind of mind game scrims a little bit. You know, you drop somewhere you're not going to necessarily go to. So, a lot of these unsigned teams are guys that played their way through the qualifier and recently got signed. They can really shake up what's happening right now. Whenever we're talking about El Giganten, that's over on the side over there. They're kind of separated out on that western coast over near Quarry. You can see that Singularity is also kind of pushed into the Quarry area as well. So that whole area of the map is kind of held down. The guys from Grow Up are going to already reposition. Looks like they're going to get Ferry Pier like you were talking about a second ago. Nothing too crazy inside of this first round, and that's kind of to be expected. Everybody's just going to kind of settle in and get that information. You want to find out who's dropping next to you and if they're going to be repeatedly doing it. So over the next round or two, they want to really make sure, okay, this team is going to drop here. So that way if they start seeing something light up inside the kill feed and, Chris looks like he's got himself a present from heaven, and that's pretty stacked crate there. Oh my God, that's full tier 3.
That's nice. They're going to be happy with that. Of course, the Grows are in there. We saw the Grows are doing some beastly work. If you missed it on the GLL on Tuesday, oh my word, it was Welcome to South George. Very nearly took a 1v4 with the Grows. Just ran out of bullets, unfortunately, and FaZe took him. But it was some amazing action. A lot of these teams were clashing in that. Now, Method being one of those.
Well, Method
they're already positioning.
Right and look at this. They're already centered up on the
map.
They've got a crate that's dropped onto them. They can just loot as long as they want right here. They're just chill. Like, they got to take those couple of shots at people that were coming around them so that they know there's a couple of teams that are over towards the north, potentially in those areas around the school apartments area or over in Sunken City.
Well, where 80 is right now, this is a common spot, I would say, for Method. They've kind of been in and around here a number of times, so not too surprising to see 80 already. Very much center circle as well. You may even see, probably almost certainly will see from Method, a 2-2 split. And like maybe a north-south, just trying to figure out where the circle's going to swing. We can see there's a big portion of Sosnovka in there. It is most likely going to swing away from that one. So they're looking pretty good around the center at the moment. Udia Fire, he's fit his entire name into his tag. Amazing.
Hey.
He's been Penta Udia for so long, but he's got his full name in there, taking shots on Alliance as they rotate away from Novo.
One thing I did want to backtrack on, talking about some of these guys already in position, you can see, waiting for the transition phase. Naturally, we have the circle that's starting to close in now, so they tried to find points where they knew teams were going to be moving from, trying to get those early kills on it. Specifically, the guys with the DP, those things can just tear apart a vehicle. So where we saw Atsi a second ago, he kind of pulled away from the rest of the guys over in the Pachinki area, holding up on the hillside, so whenever somebody comes by him, light him up, and it looks like Chronix might have line of sight on one.
Yeah, he's going to get a little peek on Alliance. Alliance taking the risk to go past Penta. They know that they're in and around that farm spawn area. Interestingly enough, Atlantis that were with Alliance splitting Novo effectively, or sort of semi-sharing it, Atlantis have been very, very cautious. And bearing in mind, this is game 1 of 15. You've got to be cautious of your routes. They've chosen to go all the way around the south of Sosnovka Island because they didn't want to bump into Alliance. Alliance themselves, being careful they don't bump into Penta. They know that Moonwolf's over on the Milta side, so they're going for the beachfront. They're trying to get around there. So everybody really, really cautious with their rotation paths right now. And because it's 20 teams, it's going to be very clustered in around that middle.
You know that these guys have, like, they have to be really nervous at this point. They're playing on the stage for the first time. They know the fact that there's 20 teams inside of here. They don't know where everybody is dropped at. Sure, you landed and you kind of know who dropped around you. Now you're hopping into a vehicle and you don't know who's going to be over the next hill. There could be just some guy that's in position, already having to migrate on foot, that could just tear you to pieces as you crest a hilltop. So that's why you see a lot of these people are kind of pushing off to the side. And I gotta say, I love Blank's logo. Sure, it's Blank, just because it's a piece of paper there. You know, got everybody with their fancy logos coming up, but Blank's like, nah, we got this.
Yeah, and more importantly, going back to the nerves, there is no one dead yet, so nobody wants to be the first to die. FaZe Clan themselves taking a relatively northern path, going across the sawmill and across that way, trying to avoid the likes of Moonwolf and Penta in those rotations. They've got to be careful. They're heading quite close to Copper Magic. We just saw, obviously, Penta taking shots on Alliance a moment ago, so they're certainly not afraid to go for it. 15 points a kill, remember. You want to get those rotational kills. It's effectively free farming points. Fuzzface, ooh, he's coming close, you know, and they're the other side. The vehicles are pretty well hidden. I think he may have just got a sniff of it, though, and now you can see 60 and VZ running for that shot, looking to try and take down Fuzzface. What a first kill that could be for someone. They do just get a clip on the car, but he's going to get past safely. May well actually just go for the coastline. There's a good shack up on the coastline there. The rest of the waves are going to be blasted on by. Mexi should be relatively safe, obviously unprotected in that bike, but it is the speed that should get him by. Now, this is the danger, actually. When he comes past, and that's Fuzzface from up on high. Real taking so-so, though. One tap! Oh, and he goes to ground. Will get himself healed off there. The SKS doing work.
He just dropped to the ground at the absolute last second and managed to survive through that. Look at his face. It's like, no, okay, you want to take some pot shots at us? We'll return the favor. You know you're posted up inside that building? Nah, you have to move now.
And now the Alliance are just like, yeah, okay, this is not safe anymore.
We don't like this. We don't like it. Let's get out of here.
Haxetti coming in, swinging in around the side as well. They're going to be getting around there. So it is this little shack, the cliffside. It's a fairly common spot that teams will go to, but it's actually a fairly southern spot as well for FaZe Clan. They're looking towards a southern shift. You can see Mexi actually going towards Potato Hill as well. Knights coming in the same way. So they are going for that split position, FaZe Clan, hoping for the north-south splits, just trying to edge the bets tactically on where the circle will go to. Small time! It's Talzera! Almost gets the knock there. It's a knock back and forward, but Miracle will come in, and Talzera sadly will be the first man to go down from Welcome to South George, taking down Singularity.
Nice awareness there. They managed to play around that. That's an awkward fight whenever you're having to fire straight up and straight down on top of two different teams. So we do have our first casualty coming out inside of that. It looks like the rest of the guys from Singularity are just running out of this. They're like, no, Gaxley, it's okay. You'll get your res. Not worth the push-up to go down there. So they're just going to drop down into this lower area. Looks like, yeah, easy res for Gaxley. Got the smokes down. Nothing too dangerous there.
And that's a fairly standard spot for Welcome to South George. They're going to be happy that they've managed to take control of that hill. It does keep them safe. Chronix now from Penta pushing up on the Italians. Moonwolf, Germany v Italy. It didn't happen in the World Cup, sadly, but it may well happen here. As Chronix is in all sorts of trouble. O'Connell takes him down, and Chronix will fall. There's no saving him there, unfortunately. It's going to be O'Connell who will secure the kill, their first 15 points of the day.
And that was just a solo kind of hanging out over there. Looks like the scout went out and tried to get a little bit of information. Didn't see any vehicles or anything like that, so felt it was safe to crest and come up to this wall. You see a lot of the teams are going to be playing around these walls because they've provided a little bit extra cover. You get those full 360 degrees of fire ranges whenever you're firing out from that wall position. So that's why you kind of crash into that spot and try to look out in the distance of it. But Circle is going to be up. Looks like it's going to be going down around Ferry Pier and Quarry, where we were talking about beforehand. So guys from FaZe already inside of their vehicles. I love the fact that FaZe and Liquid jump into their vehicles right before the circle pops up and already moving.
Already on the way. You can see the scouts, the bikes. It's a straight up race going across. It's actually going to go across Rafi. He's going to make sure he doesn't get caught out by James, but James is getting tagged up heavily there. A shot, he's going to have to swing it wide. He does manage to avoid most of the shots unless he gets clipped in the distance. Now, welcome to South George. We're in position early on. Remember, we saw them fighting for that hill, and it's turned out perfectly for them because that's exactly where they are based. El Giganto as well, just to the side. We saw Red Zone there, also taking shots. 20 teams moving into this smaller location gets very testy. There's not a great deal of landmass and real estate that these guys are going to be able to fight for. It is a calamity. That's 6 teams all blasting across, looking for the smallest of shacks. Who can get there first? Whose teammates will set them up? It's going to be Knights going down. Voxic picked off by, as it goes, Boards there. Mazales, formerly known as Hasari, himself a little bit of rotation.
But it's just so many teams. Once you make it past one, you have to run through the next firing squad. Way off in the distance, you can see Red Zone is already positioned. All these guys low ground area around Gatka, so there's just nowhere to go. It's just vehicles trying to find somewhere, but these early transitions from the other teams are just waiting for them.
Esports trying to get Texas down there. Of course, the Knights have had some massive performance in the distance, but it is a tough old knock for them. Remember, they've already lost one. Texas does get knocked, and kill secured by T-Bone from Alliance, stealing the 15 points away from Grow Up Esports there. So Knights already losing 2 in the very second circle on the rotations. That is a disaster. FaZe looks like they're going to post up on the hill. You can see Atlantis here, who were down in Novo, remember, at the start. They're taking more shots, and it's still the Knights. They can't find a home.
Everything is just already taken at this point. Everybody's got their little footholds that they've managed to position into. They opted for a little bit further into the Gatka area. So it looks like they're forced to go into a shack. They might go for a 1-1 split over here where we got Kramer in one spot and Drayden off in the distance. They're just playing for safety at this point. When you see a split into shacks like that, you know that they're playing off the back.
Look around the map right now. You can see the teams that tried to go center. They're the ones that are losing people in the rotations right now. Penta have said no. Oh, Drayden goes down. Knights are down to 1. They may be the first team eliminated here in 20th place. Haxetti picking a kill up there for FaZe. Moonwolf chose to stick out on the edge. Penta are on the eastern side as well. Copenhagen Flames, they're sticking around the north. Wizards are sticking around the north. Red Zone are coming in very late. They're going to be up in the north as well. So these teams are just like, we do not want any of this. 20 teams rotating in the same spot. So at least 5 or 6 of them have opted to say, you know what? We're going to play on the edge for now. We weren't in a good position, so we just don't want to risk it. And that's really what the risk is, because obviously you think of where the Knights spawn. They're way out on the Mansion side, and they've had to make this long travel all the way into the center. And it's just cost them, unfortunately. Too many teams posted and ready.
Well, EU plays around a set transition style. They know exactly where they want to go to from building to building and how they want to maneuver through. This area is actually very rough to play around because there's so much flatlands inside of it. You can see the guys from Method. They're just looking out and across field after field from this hilltop. Anybody that has to be forced to move at this point is going to have to contend with at least 3 to 4 different squads in different positions that can line up on them, and some long-range shots coming out from Atlantis.
That's 2 crates that Method have got. That was a Andy Pyro. So that's 2 crates they managed to pick up. So 2 tier 3 helmets secured from Method. So a good amount of equipment. You saw the M24 work coming out from Atlantis there onto Alliance. They did manage to get a knock on one of the Alliance members. That's, of course, The difference with the weapon patch that came in with the Kar98s, with the M24s, headshots are a big old thing. There's going to be a lot of knocks and a lot of helmets lost.
Well, what's really interesting now is everybody's kind of within range of each other. They can all take a couple of pot shots at each other. So when this next circle pops, some of these teams could be involved in fights with each other and kind of skirmishing, which could allow some easy transitions if people move fast enough.
Well, we can see Method. They're actually going to try and transition. Personally, I would have stayed on the hill. I think it's too risky to move, and actually looks like they're just securing the vehicles. You can see the flames are blasting straight in towards Blank. FaZe are going to have to get them moving as well. Looks like they're all going to try and angle for positions. There's not a lot of landmass. This is a very much an open field territory. Look where FaZe Clan are right now. They're kind of plumb center on that hillside, but that's so risky because they could easily get another team just come over the brow of the hill. We saw it at DreamHack Austin so often. Teams just getting pushed from multiple angles over the hills.
And we can see the grow-ups trying to make their way through here. Just crashes right into one of the barricades off to the side. That's just going to make them an easy target for all these squads. You can see just tearing into him with a mini. That's going to be some nice shots coming out from FaZe to get one. Can they net the second one right now? You can see just trying to turn out so much damage now coming onto him. And yes, he's going to get taken down by the squad off in the distance. Boars gets the kill for us.
So 2 down for Grow Up Esports. Will there be more? As I see another knock in the distance there. They are going to be able to get the revive on him, though. I can see Mazales is getting back up. But interesting you saw with FaZe there. Yemti got the knock and then went straight for the kill. Instead of looking to secure another knock, he went straight for the kill. That's 15 points.
Yeah.
Thinking early on, you know, ordinarily you would see them just going, okay, knock, let's get the next knock, let's get the next knock, and then let's finish it off. But they're all honing in on those kills.
I love the position that FaZe is in right now. I feel this is one of the strongest areas of the map for circles like this because you can play in all the little defilades and you just have such clean sight lines. Like, look out in front of them. If anybody has to move, they can just take so many free shots on anybody that has to transition. The downside is the more and more the circle might collapse around them, it gets really hard to defend because there's so many different points on the hills back behind them.
Yeah, there's no freedom. You can see he's already got his eyes on the boars. They're in that shack, and he's looking at the wooden shack. He's keeping his eye on every position where the danger positions effectively to him. Anywhere that can take a shot, like you say, he's got such a large radius. There goes a couple of taps, and now he's in all sorts of trouble. He's got to get out of there. But speaking of trouble, back to Zaki. T-Bone gets bombed down, and the secure kill will come in from FaZe. Some UMP action coming out from Alliances.
I love the UMP, and I like the fact that it's starting to get a little bit more love these days. Long-range shots now coming out from Fever. As you can see, Flames did manage to find a nice line of sight onto Liquid, but Jima's just crashes straight into there. That's a strong point to play around, but you can end up a little trapped.
There's a crate coming down right next to Liquid as well. They've just gone in towards that compound. There's a crate coming, I think it's right behind them or maybe in front of them. No, it's right in front of them. Okay, it's a risky crate to get, I would say. Alliance still not in the circle, by the way, so they're going for the shots there, but they haven't secured themselves a position just yet. Penta are creeping up onto the hill on the western side. That's going to be the other side of Method. Method themselves are pretty comfortable. Liquid have gone for a 2-2 split. That is a fat crate right there. When you've got to scroll down.
Everything.
When you've got to scroll down, you know it is a good crate. Speaking of that, back to Zaki and also to trouble again. Samti getting knocked, but it looks like back to Zaki have lost 2 now to Alliance. That is a 30-point kill confirmed.
Alliance still in their position, trying to get a little bit more damage. Bullets do go a little bit wide from Ziggsy. Can't quite net the kill onto the guys off in the distance there. Back to Zarki is going to get a pretty free rotation. They're playing outside and in the blue. Alliance also in a similar spot, so now they know that they have to move. This becomes the risk of playing edge. Whenever you're holding down a position like this, you end up having to take a little bit more damage than you want. And these are competitive circles. They do tick pretty hard.
And the problem is, if you've took shots on someone, they will remember that. And if they've leapfrogged you effectively, and now you're coming out of the blue, you're going to get it paid back, aren't you? Double time. You can see Grow Up are trying to do the same thing onto Alliance, who move onto that hill. That's not a safe hill they're on. Oh my word, the circle shift is real. It goes to the north, and Method, plumb center. There is going to be some severe rotations. Look at all of those western teams that all need to rotate in. Will they go north? Will they go south? Right now, Wizards, they're going to go round the north. That is the safest place to go right now. But there's only going to be so much territory they can move into.
In that area just to the west of Pachinki, you've got that barn area, you've got the rocks you can play around. If you're Wizards, you crash into that northern area. But I gotta say, Red Zone, fearless. Look at them. They're cutting right in between everybody. They're just hard crashing into this. The FaZe guys already in transition as well. They know that they're in a bad spot and they have to cross that field, so they're opting into an early movement. But we've got so many vehicles stacked on top of each other, all going to the same spot.
Atlantis are going to get to the hill before FaZe. This could be a problem for FaZe Clan. Moleman, of course, Method were in position. We talked about Red Zone. Frost does get taken down. Method will take him out. Atlantis have already got out the vehicles on the top. They're looking for FaZe. You can see Washout. He's actually caught Mexi down. Mexi's going to go down. That's going to be another as well. go. Being dropped off. 60 meanwhile tries to get taken down. Yempty gets dropped from FaZe Clan. This rotation has not gone well for so many teams who are over on the west side. Atlantis managed to get the hillside first. That's the prime territory that everyone wanted. We can see Moon Clan actually. Moonwolf coming up below the Moon Clan. I know a bit of a FaZe Clan and Moonwolf mix there going on, but they're trying to push up on Atlantis. Everybody's trying to get on this hill.
You can see just shots raining down. The problem is whenever you're on top of a hill like this, you're drawing everybody's attention. Now Fuzzface does have line of sight on the guys from Boris, trying to get a little bit of damage. Does get one of them down, forcing the other one back behind the tree. The guys from Atlantis up on the top of the hill are already contending with another squad, and that's going to be Moonwolf off to the side that we were just talking about. This is going to be brave. You can see the smokes are coming out. They're tempted to go for that res, but now return fire is coming out from Boris.
Fuzzface and Haxetti both taken very low there. Liquid, meanwhile, in the distance, they're getting a lot of kills. I think Alliance have maybe been flushed out, actually. I can see one team has gone down. Actually, 3 teams have gone down somewhere in that rotation. It was a pretty chaotic move. Yempty does get finished off by Ghost Star, so FaZe down to 2 now with just Haxetti and Fuzzface in the distance.
Moonwolf is pulling out. Too dangerous.
This is the push. Atlantis got that hill first, and it has cost so many teams so many problems. They're all trying to get up there. Giganto on the side trying to push up as well. A grenade comes in. Ghost Star, that's going to be the boys from ex-Hasari team going down as well. That's gone out in 17th place. Gaxi trying to toss a nade out there as WTSG challenge up close and personal with Flames.
Well, the thing about it is now everything is stacked. Anytime you try to reposition now, you're going to be running into another squad. The guys from Welcome to South George playing on the outside of this, trying to get a little bit more information, and we still have 52 people up and alive. Most of these guys have managed to fight their way and get a little bit of a hold inside of this circle, and I got to say, Welcome to South George is just doing a great job about playing in this northern area, but the circle is collapsing down right back behind them.
Yeah, and they've lost one. Haxetti's off.
FaZe got the res.
Fuzzface is
Didn't
getting...
they?
No, he's just getting the loot from, I think that was Ghost Star that went down there, so he's just managing to steal the loot away. And then he's going for it, but he's getting ripped apart. The UMP from a DMA fire. Not quite enough. He gets tagged himself. This is the problem. You go for that rotational kill. As soon as you start taking shots, you are a beacon for anybody else, the third party.
This is the problem with 20-man teams whenever you're playing in something along these lines. When you end up with these clear sight lines where you can take pot shots, right as soon as you do, you go loud, somebody off in the distance hears you, spins on you, and does some damage. So you have to be very careful from every angle you fight from. And a hard breach now coming up from the guys from Rogue.
Rogue just blasted straight in there. The smoke doing the job, but it's maybe forced them out there. Puffin's coming around the side. They're trying to track down exactly where they are. They don't want to block each other in the door. Going full-on Counter-Strike there, making sure they don't block each other out there. Hamster got himself another one on red line. We've lost 29 players in these first 3 circles. Time for things to settle down now. The circle's about to bop straight back in again to get things going. The Flames with a nade, managing to go back and forward with WTSG. As we see Fuzzface moving up the hillside on Atlantis. Remember, he was pressed out. It was Atlantis, of course, faced so many problems. He wants a little bit of revenge there. The circle.
And he's playing for it.
It's a method circle once again, and Fuzzface gets himself another.
Look at this. He's got a perfect beat on 2 different points. If they push at the same time, maybe they can get him, but they're coming out in different sinks. He's already got 3 down. The last person has to push up, finally gets the down onto Fuzzface. That's going to be potentially some reses coming out, as I don't think anybody has any angles on this.
Yeah, Haxetti's off in the distance. He went for the split there, so Fuzzface almost going huge and taking down Atlantis in a 4v1. That would have been magical. Wasn't able to secure it. He got another one.
Oh my god.
He got the secure. He got both of them.
At.
That's it. No, because Andy Pyro just took that Grubsy, so they've all gone. So actually, FaZe Clan got themselves, what, 3-4 kills out of that.
45 points, can't complain about that. Meanwhile, they're in a little like cubby hole that they're hiding in over there. At this point, you just have to play for points. When you're the last person alive, you just have to say, okay, that's it. We're just going to try to play for position and sneak into the circles as best we can.
So Larson getting a knock. El Giganto also in trouble. Here's Team Blank pushing up around the edge. They're not in the circle at the moment. By the way, the circle looking very good for Method and Wizards at the moment. Team Liquid also in there, occupying a very strong compound, Liquid, at the moment. They got that crate just outside. The Method themselves, they picked up 2 crates early on. I think they may have lost one. No, it's a lie. They've still got 4 alive. So they're still
got
looking
the blue,
and
he gets taken down as he's having to push in.
That was just CSG got 15th place.
They got stuck in a little hold there, and they just couldn't push into El Giganto. They were just holding down a great spot there. Meanwhile, off in the distance, you can see a little bit of damage coming out as Rogue still holding down this long-range fight with them.
Kramer still alive and going. Just got himself a knock. He's the only man standing. The Flames get eliminated. They go down. Team Liquid pick themselves up a quick 3 kills there as well as they take them down. So we're down to 12 teams. Real's going down. I believe they've just been eliminated as well. You see PSG. They did get a lot of kills, but Volman has them dead to rights here. Rogue try and rock up. They do get inside the crate. They managed to lose Jazza in the distance there. It's actually El Giganto that stole the kill away from Method as they try and pop shots down the hill.
The problem with it is now Rogue can't even stand up inside of that. You can see a nice line of sight down from Method. They're looking straight down into him so they can just take any shots. El Giganto still has to move out and cross right into Rogue's crossfire.
Yeah, they need to try and push out. They did just get one kill there. Savage tries to make a move as he tries to sneak around the side. We also saw Kramer, actually. If you look on the minimap in the bottom right, you can see that number 9. That's Kramer from the Knights that snuck his way in there. Remember Knights that lost so many people in that rotation early on? They've just kept that one little snake alive, sneaking in the grass. There's only 32 players alive now. We've lost so many already in these rotations, but we're down to the last 11 teams as everybody moves on. This hillside is going to get very interesting. Kramer, you can see in that shack, he's got Team Blank moving up on him.
But here comes the big problem now, is every time somebody crests or moves into a different spot, specifically on those top of the hills where you want to fire down and get control over these areas, so many teams can now look back up. We still have 31 people alive. It's very, very risky anytime you do any of these hard peaks at the top of the hill.
Where's the circle going to go? North, south, east, west, bang, central.
Not too terrible.
It forces Liquid out of their compound. It forces Method just edge a little bit further forward. Wizards can just congest them, getting themselves together.
Haxetti
you
is in
can
trouble.
see out on the west.
He's got to cross a wide open field right into a hill. That's going to be so hard to cross by himself.
He does have a motorbike, but that's still going to be very tough.
Yeah, I mean, but where do you go? You go right into the Method that's going to be on top of the hill? This is going to be really hard. This is where the pressure comes into these teams. We were talking about the fact that FaZe and Knights were probably two of the picks that a lot of people are imagining are going to be making it to Berlin. This is a very rough first round for them. They have to adapt and they have to survive as much as they can.
So we have a number of gatekeepers right now. We have Team Blank being kept out by Method, who in the distance you see Penta actually get taking shots. Penta themselves need to move up, so Method have 4 teams, I believe, that all need to compress up to their spot, which is going to be a problem for Method. They're going to get pressured. Red Zone have 1 pushing up on them. They're on the western side as well. Liquid and Wizards actually pretty safe. Liquid have already gone in the circle. They are living the dream right now for game number 1.
This is the bad part right here. With all these guys now having to push up, move forward, they're just having to move right into this area. You can see the ones trying to make it off in the distance. Red Zone's just on the other side of the hill from them. A lot of damage now coming down as Method is up on top of the hill, but it looks like they're distracted into another fight. If they end up looking back down there, it's going to be crazy.
Fake man's to land the nade. Meanwhile, we see a Method. They're getting pushed. You can see on Team Blank, they're trying to work their way up the hillside. Yannick and co from Rogue have just been eliminated by Penta, so they pushed around. They chose to go around the edge there. I think Ewan is the last man standing for Rogue, so he's managed to get out, so they're just trying to keep them alive in the game at the moment, try and get higher placement positions. Penta, they've just got one for Rogue. Now they're pushing up on Method, but Ewan goes down. That's going to be the end of Rogue, going down in 10th place as Andy Pyro manages to light up Brexico there. He's going to get picked off with that. Groza gets a little peek on Udime Fire, shows his head a little too much. And Andy Pyro with this Groza. He had an amazing game in an SK12 the other day, by the way. I want to throw that out. He got 9 kills in that game.
Method right now has a DP and a Groza for what's going to be a close-range fight on top of a hill. Anytime somebody crests anywhere around them, the spray alone is just going to tear apart a team. Penta's under so much pressure right now, as you can see, Cup of Magic is trying to cross.
Team Blank just going straight on top of 1. That's going to cause problems for them, but Cup of Magic has just been knocked by Haxetti and taken down. Haxetti on the move. He's actually got himself on the edge, and Penta are down to 1, I believe, now. Udime Fire, the last man standing, while they've been running into Method, and you can see Haxetti just on that western coast. That ballsy player. I think he's going himself in the shack, but look at Jeeves. Look at Liquid.
Oh, he reclaimed.
They've gone central position. Yeah. This is so good.
With this fight, Method moved down and got involved in those lower fights. Now we can see that Liquid's managed to get control. All these side skirmishes has allowed Haxetti to get into what could potentially be a safe spot.
Knight's going down in 8th place. You see he's finally been worked out there, but that's great considering they lost so many players early on. Red Zone and Blank are kind of engaging each other on the western side. Haxetti's just creeping his way in. Oh, the nades come across, and it's the
long
Wizards
range.
Will find
Look at that.
FaZe there, 7th place for the FaZe clan, and the circle goes to Liquid, really. Jeeves, he went for the central spot. That's really nice. We work for him. Udime Far goes down. That's Penta going out in 6th place. Method picking up a lot of kills here as well along the way with their Groza.
Oh, but Blake's pushing right over into Red Zone. They're just waiting there. A nice spray from Celis. Turns back. Gets another one. That's 2 already down. Gonna go for the 3rd one. That's gonna put all the pressure onto him. You can see Blank is now just running. The lone sole survivor is like, no, I want nothing to do with this. Pipus is running out, but he's gonna be running right below Method. They don't see him. They're looking back down where the firefight's happening, but he's gonna walk right into another 3-man squad.
Andy Pyro's right there. He's just going to come straight over the top there. 8 seat drawn towards that. They've just seen Blank get eliminated. Suddenly we're down to 15. 80 has a perfect angle. He's just waiting for everybody else to get in position. Look at the minimap. Everybody from Method is just getting in position to take a couple of shots here. There they go. They unleash. That's going to be Celis going down. 80 will secure that one. Chris gets Pybass down as well. So Blank go down in fifth place.
80 went down.
Scoom just picks out of nowhere. Liquid finally getting involved in this one. They have the circle, and they're going to keep Method out of it.
Method was doing all the damage. They got weakened in these long fights up on top of this hillside. Liquid got position. They got control of the circle, but now Wizards is sneaking up and encroaching right back behind them. If they stay focused over this direction, over towards Red Zone and over towards Method, Wizards could just sneak up right back behind them, get the shots, and it looks like nobody's seen them yet.
Yeah, Wizards sneaking running behind them, and this could work out so well for Method because they have the high ground. They have themselves 8 kills and counting already. They get a little sneak peek on Macandark down the end there, but they're going to try and go around the eastern circle of this. Now, they realize that Liquid are down there. They can't risk it. They're going to have to back away. They got the revive off as well. So now Liquid have to deal with Wizards. They have to secure themselves a position behind them. Really nice rotations from Method here. They know that Penta are dead, so they know that. Western Circle is clear. Arrows, though, picked off. Liquid have seen them, and now Wizards are in trouble.
You can see that there's so much stress that's now starting to come onto Scoom. Scoom didn't see the side push over there coming out from Macandark. He's dropped down. They're all caught up on the side. Finally, James does see him, gets that down on top of him, so Red Zone is now down and out. Method still holding the top of the hillside, but you can see Liquid's trying to figure out how they want to transition through. Etsy's just hard pushing down, trying to get his vehicle in some form of cover so the rest of his guys can make it their way down this hillside.
Moleman tagging away. They're trying to duck out. Look at this. They're trying to dodge Liquid from the left-hand side, and Moleman's getting himself 3 kills. They've got 9 kills and counting. It's 80's used his vehicle. Samty gets hyper down. That's on the left-hand side. The last 3 teams, and it's going to be very much between Method and Liquid as Wizards get picked apart in the distance from multiple angles.
Right steps right up next to him, but Abisa manages to duck down. He's already lost half of his life. Smokes are now starting to come out as they're trying to get a little bit more control, but Liquid's caught between so many different squads right now. Finally, Liquid gets control over Wizards, so we are down to just 2 as now Method is just unloading.
The nade King James that delivers. He gets himself a quick double kill there. 10 kills and counting. There's a nade going back towards Abita. He might catch him out the side.
Oh, he does!
Samty and Abita down. James got Anti-Pyro at the same time, so it's a 2-on-3. 80 up close with the smoke. You can see James going left, Scoom going right. He needs to try and get the revive on him.
This grenade.
He can, but there's another nade coming towards him. Could he land on the nade King? No, James is safe as we're down to a 3-on-3.
You can see that Scoom is trying to figure out if he can get over to Ibiza. He really wants to get this player back up. They need the numbers right now. It is a 3v3 with Ibiza down. It's technically a 3v2. But yeah, they're hard pushing onto it. A lot of damage coming down. Is he going to be able to make it towards the tree? Just barely. Etsy's going for the side flank, though. Now James has given away his position. Can he get this shot?
Moleman's coming around the side as well. Scoom's going to catch him. He does. He can't move to land a shot. The AKM tries to spray it down. Moleman's pushed for
pops up, but he gets it.
A headshot. 80 takes James down in the meantime as well. James secured and downed. It's a down to a 2-on-3, but of course Method 1 man down. 12 kills and counting for Method. Liquid in the same position. This is a risky run coming out from Moleman. He goes straight to Ibiza. Ibiza finds the headshot. Liquid looking good for game number 1 now. Ibiza and Scoom left standing against 80 in a 2-on-1. 9 kills for Liquid. 12 kills for Method. If Liquid secure this, they're going to be finishing with 12 kills themselves. The DP at this range, if he just needs to find a single head tap, we just saw Scoom jumping.
All he has to do is just line these guys up if they push off to the side of it. You can see they're trying to feed information down as they're crawling off to the side. They're like, hey, okay, this is the rock that he's at. This is where they're moving. Abisa does manage to get himself a ghillie suit, which could be huge as he's trying to sneak off to the side here. Looks like they have a pretty good idea on where he's at, but they just don't have 100% information yet. Grenades are starting to rain down on Etsy and do a lot of damage. Does Scoom see it? No, he sees Chris.
But he sees the creep, and Chris will give you information. Look at 80, spins, looks in that position. The circle, well, it's going to go down.
Spots him out.
Scoom will find him. It's going to be 12 kills for Team Liquid as they take game number 1 here. Out of 15, it was a very, very chaotic match, no doubt about it, Matt. But it is Team Liquid and Method. They were sitting in and around that hill the whole time, and it works out for Liquid.
I know. Well, a lot of times we talk about which Liquid shows up. Sometimes they have a little bit of trouble on land. They have to get their feet underneath of them. But coming out and getting a round 1 win is so big for them. Specifically in the top 5, we've got Liquid, Method, Wizards, Red Zone, and Blank. No Knights and no FaZe.
Both caught out with big rotations. It's been a chaotic game, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. Let's get over to Kalaris and the boys.
That's right. Big moves coming out from Team Liquid here as they're able to take the first chicken dinner of the day. And what a story for them to start things off. When it comes to actually being able to take that one, they came through from the qualifiers. They were unsuccessful to actually qualify, managed to pip at the post there, getting themselves a spot here at the actual LAN itself, and they're able to take the victory. Against Method towards the end as well, two very well-known teams to one another, Toffees, coming into this to end things in game number 1.
Two well-known teams that I think we were excited to see how they performed here. Liquid had a lot to prove based on sort of their qualifier performance and a little bit of what happened at DreamHack. Method, a team that has phenomenal players when they're feeling it, and when they aren't, can be kind of hit or miss. And I think they were both on fire. 12 kills for each team.
Yes.
24 to us, like I think 19.5 or 20% of the total field was killed by these two teams.
Fantastic play coming out of Liquid because they had such hard rotations. They came in from the east, circle shift to southwest. They had to go all the way north of Gatka, coming on the northwestern side, and then the circle shifted east, and they had to go back. They must have been tearing the hair off their head.
Well, I said that I wanted to see teams rotating by the 2-minute warning on the circle. Scoom arrived in Yasnaya to start looting at 2:17. So, like, these guys were chasing. They chased a hard shift, made a long rotation, got hard shifted the opposite way. And then I think that the PUBG gods smiled upon them and delivered the AWM God Pack to Ibiza, who then sort of just, I mean, what was that, a ghillie suit? AWM, an extended mag, an 8X.
8X, all 333s.
Everything.
Beautiful.
And in Ibiza's hands, just insanely lethal.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from this game before we actually continue talking about all of this. And overall, I think it's a game that really kind of stood out and showed kind of some of the chaotic features of a 20-man meta with teams having to kind of accommodate to the other ones around them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with Alliance, and they had a little bit of a throwdown with FaZe on FaZe's transition. Alliance, because of 20 teams, took a couple of shots at FaZe, and I think FaZe sent a message. They said,
yes,
you poke the bear, you get shot at. And FuzzFace stopped his bike on top of that hill and just lit them up from a distance. So FaZe not messing around.
I think it was very important as well. You saw those moments there where FuzzFace is, or I think it may have been Yemti, regardless of who it was, confirming the kills as they go down in those very open areas where you know that kills could quite easily be stolen, and that's 15 points. So you want to confirm a kill very fast.
We see it more. We see it often that people have to do this. This is just to an extreme.
Yeah.
We saw so many kills get confirmed, but we also saw a couple of kills get kills stolen as well. We saw Alliance stealing probably 2 or 3 kills, which is 45 points. This could come down to in the end 45 points difference.
What did you make of FaZe's option to try and split themselves? I mean, they only came in about 7th place, which isn't exactly the best start for them, but they did go for a split and tried. You saw Hexati in there in the little corner of that building, you know, trying to survive. FuzzFace almost got a full team wipe on Atlantis, was unsuccessful, but it was almost clutch.
Yeah, I mean, it was a necessity, right? They knew that they had lost 2 people. They had already racked up 7 kills. So they've got 105 points in the bank waiting to be claimed, and they just want to get up that board a little bit more because it's diminishing returns. The higher up you are, the more you get. And as you sort of get into that 7th, 8th, 9th, you get less and less sort of a deviation in points there. So really forcing your way all the way up to, I think that they finished in 7th place, gain them a good net. It actually solidifies the fact that, okay, maybe you wouldn't even call this a bad game. This would be a mediocre game, right? Because they racked up a bunch of good points. So it was very smart, not as exciting as we like to see. We like to see that FuzzFace 4v1 that he almost won there for a second. But Hack said he made the right choice. He played slow, he played low, he got the points.
So Liquid getting the first victory here. What do you think about how much effort actually went into that? Because it really felt like they were making what seemed like smart rotations to accommodate for the fact that it's 20-team meta. You want to avoid some of those fights when coming into the circles. Maybe some people aren't quite up to, you know, the northwest corner going into the circles, but they really had to work to go from circle to circle to circle.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about their adaptations here. The migration from, they just want to get on foot. They want to fight on foot. They never want to fight on range, or well, they will do it if they're forced to. They just want to put themselves in a position where they're able to fight on foot. That compound they got that was lying up towards the hill where it ended was just perfect for them. They were able to finish off Flames. Flames, they focused on Welcome to South Jaws because they came in there, but then they used so much time focusing on Welcome to South George, and then they died themselves to Liquid because they didn't have any time to do a rotation towards the circle.
And speaking of which, you brought up Copenhagen Flames there, which is the point I wanted to make next. They seemed to have a very strong compound and kept getting knocks and knocks and knocks, but they didn't end the game with many kills. So as much as they were getting those knocks, they weren't getting the confirmation. So what was going on?
I mean, they invested a lot of resources fighting off Welcome to George, South George. You know, that's a tough team to fight. We know that those guys excel in that sort of urban warfare environment. They lost a lot of resources. I think they were running without helmets after that. And then they just turned around. And unfortunately, when the circle went towards Liquid, it left them with a big open field and no way to cross it. But again, remember, on these games where we've got 20 teams and everyone's sort of holding compounds waiting for the close, losing resources is a very big deal in that fourth circle or so, because losing those helmets so that you're going into the last game where a simple AK bullet can sort of take you out, losing your meds so that you're fighting at 3/4 health, that's, I think, what was really hurting them. Is they were doing a good job of taking resources, but they couldn't close the deal, and the circle did not help them in any way.
Final question. What does it mean to Team Liquid here, getting a start like this, after arguably not even qualifying and just kind of squeaking through? For them to get the first chicken dinner, it's got to feel good.
I think this is a typical Liquid. They always have they have good first days. I mean, they do good first days. They are fast adapters. I'm just excited to see if they can keep on going with this.
This is big for me because it's confidence building. And especially, as much as Scoom's going to hate me for saying this, I'm glad they didn't get the circles. I could hear a collective scream from down there as he wasn't getting them. But this is what I needed them to have, confidence. I needed them to be like, yes, we are the team that can be the best in the world. And chasing the circles, not getting the start, having to fight an uphill position against Method, they'd never had it fully to their advantage, and they still came out on top. So I think this makes them a strong team in the tournament because of the confidence building it gives them.
Especially since they had such a rough time in our 20-team meta in the qualifiers. Thank you very much, gentlemen, as we are now going to go to a short break here, and when we return, we're going to have game number 2. So far, Liquid's been able to get the first chicken dinner of the day, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come.